You guys know I work for the Attorney General's office. There are things being promised that are going to be done that cannot be done. So I also would encourage you to go ahead and investigate the Attorney General's office and just see what they're about. Really, they're attorneys for state agencies. Is that I'm seeing so much arguing and bickering between us that I hope to God somehow there's going to be some unifying message that's going to bring us all together and get serious about what we're supposed to be about this election cycle. I went to the AG debate. I went in there with the mindset of if I could be a general election voter and I have 3 candidates in front of me, who would I think I would probably vote for? And so you guys are the rabid Republicans, the rabid activists. So all I'm asking you to do is have an open mind and listen to what Ryan has to say. You said that you were voted the 6th most conservative legislator. If you can just source that out for us so that if people want to go and verify anything that you say.
I'm an actual fighter. I'm not afraid of hard questions. I'm not afraid of anybody. I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody. We have our God-given rights to self-defense. My father, who was a state champion wrestler, got a scholarship to the University of Florida for wrestling and ended up going to Michigan State, then to law school, was an attorney practicing for years, then got into real estate, owned some Century 21 franchises, then got into other type of ventures and was an entrepreneur way before anybody knew what an entrepreneur was. But he said, and I have an older brother, growing up, well, you're going to law school. That was it. We had no choice. He said, you're going to law school. But you go to law school, and then whatever you want to do afterwards, I'll support you and you can do. And I'm like, what does that mean? Why do I have to go to law school then if I want to do something else? Well, he said, if you want to go into business, you get your law degree, and that's a base of knowledge. So, and it's a way of thinking, where if somebody threatens you or threatens to sue you, you don't have to be on the phone with your attorney getting advice. You don't have to be on the phone with your attorney every day saying, can I do this, can I do that? You'll already know the answers to those issues. If you want to go into law enforcement, where I've always been interested, you have to know the law to enforce the law. You having your law degree will give you that leg up for promotions. It'll also give you that knowledge when you run into people and threaten to sue you for what you're doing. You'll know whether it's legit or not. You got to know the law to make the law, to change the law. It gives you that base. So no matter what you want to do, it gives you that empowerment to face life and any obstacles, and then you can go in any different areas and change. But with the Michigan State Police, they act as their own detectives, especially if it's not a major case. You initiate the case, the complaint, and then you're the own detective. You get to investigate, go charge, and see it all the way through going into the court, testifying, and being the lead investigator sitting there with the prosecutor. That law enforcement real-world experience, got me through and helped me with law classes, obviously, but once as I was an attorney, I have so many funny stories about that. It's just like wearing the different hats, but it makes you a better defense attorney because you know exactly what the cops are trained at. You have the same books, everything, so you know what to look at. Hey, did they wait 15 minutes to give this breath test? Did they do that? Oh, they shouldn't have done that. But also being a defense attorney made you a much better officer. Because that would be important to say, oh, I saw a case get dismissed over that. We better sit and wait, and we better do this properly. Oh, we can't just search here. Let's make sure and get that search warrant first. At the end of the day, they say, hey, Ryan, how can you do both sides? I'm all for justice. What I learned as an attorney, all the other attorney jokes and people looking down on attorneys is pretty much true. In fact, you have attorneys out there and that will just prolong. I would say, hey, this case, and I know this case is going to end up settling for like $5,000. Let's settle. They're like, no, and they drag it on, and they end up charging their client hundreds, thousands of dollars, months later, litigation. And guess what? The case ended up settling $5,000. But they want to do that because they're trying to pad their own billable hours. It's wrong. And
is that a white collar crime? No, seriously, I believe it's a white collar crime, and no one is looking into it. As an attorney general, would you please consider it? The fact that you said it.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And that's some of the things we're talking about frivolous lawsuits. You know, people doing things knowing, just because a lot of the time the law doesn't have any teeth into it, and a lot of times judges don't award attorney fees or don't do sanctions. But to get to your question, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do is crack down. And a lot of my bills in the House has been to a little bit of criminal justice reform, but court reform to make things easier. School board, city council, county commission, state representative, state senate, every single election is important. Every single office has its own sphere, their own jurisdiction, and their own ability to safeguard our civil rights and civil liberties. And that's why it's so important to get good people in there, principled people with the right ideas to defend us, really, from what's going on in our country.
Are you gonna make any deals where we can bring the judges up on charges when they misrepresent the courts?
The judges?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the judges don't like me. Here in Wayne County and Oakland County, parts that the judges, and especially at the circuit court level, they run as a slate. The judges also, when you're talking about elections and elections having consequences, they are the ones, they are like insulated from being contested. Right now, the judge is one of the only positions where you can't just pay a filing fee at the state level to get on the ballot. You actually have to go out and collect signatures. And in Oakland County, it's like 5,000 signatures. There was a judge who got arrested for a DUI right before like the filing deadline, and then it looked like, okay, now that, and the judge's name was McDonald. Nobody wanted to go against a McDonald. It's a powerful name in the area. But because of that DUI, they're like, people wanted to jump on that opportunity. And it was, for a couple of them, it was too late to even collect the signatures. But so I had a bill last time to say, you don't have to do signatures, you can do $100 per 1,000 signatures. Something like that. I also did a bill that said, instead of running as a slate, so they run as a slate. So if you have one bad judge, and when they're up and you want to go against that judge, you're actually going against 5 of them. And if as long as they're not the bottom vote getter, they stay in. So you could end up replacing a good judge and the bad judge stays in. So I said,
Did those pass?
no, they didn't even get a hearing.
So that's what I mean.
So that's a whole other issue, the
Yeah.
politics behind it. But I'm still committed to, seeing that through. I have a lot of legislation that I've been working on. But that bill said, hey, each judge will have a judge number, kind of like a district number for reps, county commission, and that you can choose what district number you want to go against. Judges are the only ones that have the incumbency designation too. Judge so-and-so, to show that they are a judge and it gives them a little bit more of an advantage. No judge has ever lost in Oakland County's history, 150 years or whatever it is, a race. That's a problem. I went and represented somebody one time, and I walk in just like any normal court to go check into the front. Well, she had different procedures that I didn't know about, and started yelling at me to sit back, sit behind the thing. If you do that, like, I'm a new attorney going in there. I didn't know she has special rules in her courtroom. She was yelling at people, yelling at me. I ended up sitting there when it was my client's turn. I think it was an arraignment or pretrial, and she started asking questions to my client. And I said, don't answer that question. He had no right. It's against his Fifth Amendment, right against incrimination. And she yelled at me and said, get out of my courtroom. Don't tell him what to do. I tell him what to do. I'm the judge. Get out of my courtroom or I'm going to arrest you. I'm like, I was stunned. I was shocked. And after this case I had, and I left there and I'm like calling up an older experienced attorney, like, what do I do, whatever. I ended up talking to a couple justices afterwards saying, like, I want to go after, like, she needs to be removed. What's the thing with the Judicial Tenure Commission? And it was a whole process. It ended up coming out. She was on the bench for years going through investigations till they finally removed her. We need to revamp our system. I have other judges that I know that if somebody calls me and I say, okay, what judge is it in front of? I'm like, all right, I'll refer you to so-and-so over here. Because it's not worth it. Judges are supposed to be impartial, but some judges are just vindictive, whatever. You have people that will just send one class of offender always to jail. It's wrong.
18 is that a white collar crime? How do we have a white collar crime unit in the Attorney General's office, and they're not attacking any white collar criminals, and they're the judges, the attorneys. How do we, the people, count on our Attorney General to help us with the white collar crimes?
Well, it's having the Attorney General to, when you're, especially for the different crime classes, whatever, diverting the resources for that and taking complaints or allegations seriously. Because, yeah, every office, no matter what it is, here as a state representative, I have an office, and you have a budget, you will get 2 staff members, and you get hundreds of emails a day, hundreds of correspondence, whatever. You're working on different issues, and it's where to prioritize your time. What goes to the top? And as a problem, they'll say, hey, we're not doing any of these cases, don't bring it to us. So that was Washington said, no prostitution, drugs, whatever, don't bring it to us. So they're diverting their resources. Is that appropriate? Well, elections have consequences, but I think that's maybe a neglected duty. I think it's wrong to say, hey, and even talking about these judges, where judges, every single DUI, no matter the circumstances, they're going to jail. That's what it is. I think that's a little bit biased. I think every single case needs to be looked at individually, the facts and circumstances surrounding that case, surrounding that defendant. A lot of prosecutors and prosecutors' offices are just about their conviction. Hey, their win rate. We want 100%, 90 whatever percent per conviction. A lot of prosecutors' office will overcharge somebody on purpose just to reduce it to maybe what it should have been to get pleas to get their conviction. I've had so many cases where I showed evidence, I'll tell a couple stories, but showed evidence that my client wasn't guilty, it was totally even the wrong person, and they said, no, I'll then prove it at trial, and I'll get my trial experience, and if I win, I win. If you lose, it's the same as if I dismiss it. Why would I dismiss it? That's so wrong. That's why I actually had a bill, and I'm working on some stuff for prosecutors, where if a defendant claims actual innocence, and it kind of like in the civil thing, a case evaluation, and you go to trial and you're put on notice, and you end up losing as a prosecutor, you should pay the defense attorney fees for the defendant.
When are your bills going to go through? You got great ideas, but we need them approved.
Well, you know what? A lot of my bills have already gone through the House and are sitting in the Senate. One of the first things that I realized as an attorney, it's not necessarily about the law. And this is what I say, it's all about who you know. Who you know, it's all about your network. It's all about, right now, showing up today, whatever meeting it is. And I tell students the same 2 pieces of advice. Internships, join the professional association, getting off your butt, going to meetings, right? It's all about who you know. Who you know will get you there, what you know will keep you there. I was a brand new attorney, went into the court, I had this motion, I had the law was on my side, it was it. I have it, slam dunk. I go in there, I argue my case, the opposing attorney says something, I'm like, okay, whatever. Boom, 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 I lose, he wins. What just happened? The other attorney goes, all right, oh, Judge, oh yeah, we're still on tomorrow for lunch? I said, yeah, all right, cool. Walks out. I go, oh my God. That's it. They found out they're golfing buddies. They're that, you know.
A white collar crime, yes.
I mean, that's unfortunate, you know, it happens. And I've had it before, judges know they're clearly wrong, and they say, appeal me. And they know that most defendants don't have the resources or the money to appeal. And it's hard to appeal, and even especially at the district court level, you have to go to circuit court, and they're all buddies. And typically, if it's a 50-50, let's say it's close, you're gonna pretty much go on the side of who you have a better relationship with. with that prosecutor who's always in your courtroom and you always have to deal with, then some defense attorney coming in on one case and sporadically seeing them. So many times I've seen justice not happen. That's one of the reasons I'm running for Attorney General. I want to see justice to happen. I'm not about conviction. I'm about ratios. I'm not about charging. I'm about seeking justice, getting justice. That's how I can be a defense attorney defending somebody for a client in the morning. And then my department calls me and says, hey, we need you to come up to the jail and interrogate this guy for us. Switch the hats. I go and ask questions, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't answer that. But it's all about that balance, seeking to do what's right, getting the just result. Where there's an open seat, I replaced Clint Kesto. Clint Kesto was my state representative, and I knew him from law school, from Wayne State Law School. And he's like, Berman, you should run. And you know, I was thinking about it, but I don't like small talk. I'm not a shaking hands, kissing babies. I tell it like it is. I'm politically incorrect. But Trump won. And when Trump ran, and I heard that Trump was running for office, I'm like, that's a joke. Donald Trump is running for president? I couldn't think of anybody more unpresidential. But that's why everybody loved him. They wanted all the crap, the establishment, the swamp, whatever you want to call it. They're looking for that outsider, looking for somebody new. We shouldn't have to compromise when we're all in unified Republican control. I said, if Donald Trump can do it, listen, I'm no Trump, but I think I could do it. I could run, I could tell it how it is. And Gretchen Whitmer did, oh, I'm not that far left, I'm really moderate to get their votes. Oh, I'm not that far right, people say, I'm really moderate. That's kind of a problem with our two-party system, but that's the way this politics goes. I've never had to do that, because I tell it like it is. I don't compromise my principles. I work across the aisle and work on issues that matter most to everybody. In 2020, they called me dead man walking up in Lansing. They would whisper, they would say, don't worry about Berman, he's not going to be here next year. They called me too conservative for my moderate district. When the lockdowns happened, I was railing against them and going against Whitmer, and they said, Whitmer is polling too high in your area, you cannot publicly oppose her. I said, watch me.
Amen.
Well, again, you have to have the right message and the right messenger. People in my district thought what Gretchen Whitmer was doing was great. That she was saving lives. She was protecting them, doing it for a good reason. I said, no matter how altruistic you think she is, no matter whether you agree or disagree with her, that's not the issue. She can be doing it with the greatest reasons ever. She's not your mother, she's not mine. At the end of the day, we have rights. We have a constitution that enshrines those rights. And it clearly says we have a checks and balances, co-equal branches, and power properly belonging to one branch cannot be exercised by another. And by her doing these mandates and going beyond her scope of authority, she's usurping legislative authority. And I'm taking that personally now as a legislator. People understood that. People understood, look at the Constitution, look at our system. Do we live in a kingdom, in a monarchy? No. You get them to agree, you concentrate on these issues. I'm able to be bipartisan. All my major legislation has been both Republican and Democrat co-sponsors without compromising my principles. That as taxpayers, we're all the shareholders. The state of Michigan as government, imagine if it was a public company. It was on the New York Stock Exchange. It would be delisted within a day with all the fraud, scandals, waste, and management, okay? Mismanagement. There's no transparency on where the tax are. Any publicly traded company has to show the book, show what's going on, show expenditure, show everything. Are they doing that right now? They won't even do it to representatives. On the budget last year, they had line items, $2 million for the Supreme Court website. I said, what is this? Can you give me more information? I don't know. I went to the chair. We could get information for you. It took them 3 weeks. And they said, oh, the Supreme Court's website hasn't been updated in 10 years. I said, whoa, so this is document management, cloud, they're like, no, just aesthetics. I said, every single one of us here ran for office had a website. I could get you a brand new Supreme Court website for $10,000. My computer guy will probably cost him $2,000. He'll have an $8,000 profit and be kissing my butt happy for the rest of his life. It's a joke. $2 million. And they got the breakdown? $500,000 to consult on it. $500,000 for some. It's literally made me sick. That's just one little item.
White collar crime again. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But it is, it's criminal activity.
Well,
That is criminal activity.
But that's the problem. I'm on the board of directors of this company. Governor Whitmer's the CEO. We need a new CEO. We also need a new board. I mean, that's what happens. Term limits, things like that, to get what the shareholders want. I've concentrated on issues that the shareholders want. My bill said anybody working for the government, for any State Department, put their salary and information, benefits, and title right online for all of us to see. When they say we don't have enough workers, well, guess what? You have 15 of them with all these different, positions. Easy. It's being stalled in the Senate. Went through the House, went through Senate committee, and one senator doesn't really like it, and it's being stalled. I sponsored the Legislative Open Records Act. What that does is brings the legislature under the Freedom of Information Act, which they're exempt from right now. The governor, lieutenant governor's office is all exempt. This bill package put them all under FOIA. It passed the House last session, stalled in the Senate. I took up the mantle again, sponsored it with the lead guy testifying on all the bills, got it through the House, it's now in the Senate again.